So that's where I'm at.
Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Bryant.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
It is Wednesday.
It's Wednesday night. This is a normal night, but it feels a little weird because we just did a long podcast live stream episode last night. But we're trying to get back onto the regular schedule, so that's what we're going to do. So we did Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. There's a bye this weekend. We're going to kind of coast into the Saturday and Sunday, come back at it strong on Monday, and get ready for Northwestern. And so, yeah, it feels a little weird that we're back on again tonight after talking for so long last night. Tonight's episode might be a little bit shorter. Obviously, Wednesday, we normally have a guest to come on and talk about the upcoming opponent. We don't have that, but we do have a few other questions we're going to tackle. And Chris, hold that thought.
Red alert. Sound the alarms. Red alert. Lockdown here. I hate to have to do this at the beginning of the show. I wanted to start it off on a positive note. It's the bye week. We're 6-0. Everybody's happy. Yada, yada, yada. So I spent some time doing a little bit of writing today, as we often do throughout the day. I put out an article about the Mike McDonald defense. And, basically to sum it up, it was, hey, look, so far so good. The defense looks like they're doing good. Here's kind of how some numbers compare to what Don Brown did over the last 3 years, which were obviously some not so good years, to really see if there's been a noticeable improvement. But then also with the caveat that, look, Michigan's, the toughest part of Michigan's schedule is still to come. And so he's really going to earn his way here in the next 6 weeks of the season. I thought it was a valid point. I put out the article, and then I look at the comments and I see tons of people saying, whoa, you got to pump the brakes. They haven't even ran into the Michigan States, the Penn States, the Ohio States. And I'm thinking, like, am I going crazy here, or is that exactly what I said in the article? So I go back, I reread the article. It turns out I did. So me being me, I wanted honest feedback from the people. I went to the comment section on the Winged Helmet Facebook page, and I said, look, full disclosure, I just want complete honesty here. How many of you guys read the articles before you comment on the article? And I got responses that ripped my soul into shreds. So I'm just Ryan, Nick, Steven, Chris. These guys aren't reading the articles. They're on here commenting. They're on here commenting, giving their 2 cents, but not even. And especially, look, Nick Sparks, you've been around for a minute here. You're one of the OGs. I expect more from you than that. You guys got to help us out, man. I'm all for the dialogue, but you got to read the articles. You got to get in there and see what we're talking about. We see this happen a lot, and we put a lot of work into this stuff, and we welcome the discussion, but we got to start on an even playing field, man. You got to know what the content is.
I have never seen anyone open their mouths and run it without reading one of my articles first. Never seen that. It's every stupid ass person on Twitter that has a problem with something that I say or write. It's like
let me just say,
they either choose not to read or they can't read. I'm not sure which one it is, but it happens all the time.
Well, I just want to be clear. I'm not saying that about the gentleman in question here that I singled out. Some of these guys have been around for a minute. I definitely appreciate the fact that they're involved. I'm just busting their balls a little bit here, but I just think it's funny, man. Like a lot of the times, because we make mistakes sometimes when we write articles, and then when somebody comments on something, the first thing that happens is you're like, oh shit, did I leave something out? Did I not edit something the right way? What did I do? So you go through this whole period of anxiety, and it was just because guys weren't reading. So I felt it was necessary to start the show off. Let's set the deck. Guys, read the articles, man. We're putting, I'm not writing novels out there. You're talking 400 or 500 words. You can get through it in about 5 minutes in a quick toilet session. So do us a favor. We've got children here, Brandon. We've got children. We've got families here.
It's like you Damn it, Matthew. I'm trying to focus, dude. Quit asking me if I'm in the bathroom on the toilet, man. I'm trying to put out
more bathroom questions.
I'm trying to put out top content here, man. Top content here. No, it's like it's that I know, Matthew. I'm obviously kidding too. I think you were the one who asked me the same question yesterday. I think, weren't you? Anyway, if you want to put that in the comments, hilarious. All right, it does look like a bathroom. I feel a little bit like I'm in a bathroom, but I'm not. I'm in an office that doesn't have a lot of decoration. This is one of those things where you know, like the old Playboy joke. Like I get the Playboys for the articles. Really, you could really get Wolverine Digest for the articles, man. Check them out; they're pretty good. I will go
There's
to bat.
good stuff in there sometimes.
I will go to bat for what Chris and I put up there, and yeah, it's funny, dude. It's. I will admit, I mean, obviously somebody's reading our stuff because our numbers say so, and I would guess a lot of that traffic comes from the Facebook page.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people on Twitter that just see a tweet and they got to run their mouth, man. They got to fire something up. They have no idea what they're talking about. Hell, a guy from an Ohio State media site did a whole 20-minute video about me, and he had no idea what he was talking about. None. He talked about 15 different things that had nothing to do with what I wrote in the article simply because he misinterpreted a tweet.
I'll tell you, I hold the folks at the Winged Helmet to a very high championship level standard. So I expect better. I expect better from the team.
There you have it. All right, wanted to get that out of the way. Let's jump into some Michigan basketball recruiting content. In absolute shocker of a move, Jet Howard has committed to Michigan, the son of Juwan. Obviously, most people thought this was going to happen. He had a pretty good top list. He's like a borderline 5-star type of kid, pretty much viewed as a top 50 player across the country, across all platforms, all recruiting services. But I mean, this was a no-brainer. I mean, Juwan's killing it on the recruiting trail. Michigan's winning Big Ten titles. They're making deep runs in the tournament. And oh, by the way, my dad is the coach and my big brother's already on the team. So this is not a surprise development, but it's still a big deal because Jet Howard's really freaking good. He's like a small forward, kind of lanky wing, 6'7", 220, not a supremely dynamic athlete in terms of foot speed and quickness, but he can get up off the floor. He can finish at the rim. He can shoot it. He's a better prospect than Jace, who's obviously already on the team. But even Jace looks like the kind of guy who might be able to develop into something because of his length, because of his frame, his build, his background, obviously the way he's going to get after it. But this is pretty cool. I think this is cool that Michigan continues to roll on the recruiting trail. Like I said, this one wasn't a surprise. I don't think they had to really beat anybody out necessarily for Jet Howard, but it's still a big deal because he's a talented player. And it just more momentum, more rolling for Michigan and Juwan Howard. And you love to see it, man. You love to see it because it's almost nonstop at this point for Juwan and company.
Yeah. I don't know if it's physically possible, given the time frames and how it would all have to work out to have 5 biological children as the starting 5 for a college basketball team. But if anybody could do it, it seems like Juwan Howard could do it. And you're right. There was no surprise. Everybody kind of knew that this was coming, but it's still cool to see it play out. And you could see Jace was excited and sort of, the Howard family is celebrating. And now the trilogy is there at the University of Michigan. And, it's kind of this cool thing. So did you
see what Juwan's wife tweeted?
What did she say?
It was it's an all Howard, all Michigan, all Go Blue family. And oh, by the way, Juwan did throw the bag at me to get this commitment or something. You can actually say that. And I actually, so Michigan basketball media day is coming up on Friday. And I wonder, there's some weird kind of loophole type of things when you have a parent who's a coach that has a player or a recruit that is their kid. College football coaches, for instance, can't go to any of the camps during the season. A lot of the on-campus camps are closed to coaches. But if you have a child that's a recruit that is participating in the camp, you can be there. So I'm wondering if there's a similar type of loophole where Juwan may be able to talk about Jet on Friday, even though he's in high school still and he's not signed. I'm going to ask about that because it's his son. I mean, it'd be really weird if he couldn't mention him at all. I don't know if there's a level to it or what he could possibly say, but I'm going to look into that. But anyway, back to you, Chris. Sorry, I just wanted to jump in there because I thought it was really funny that his wife was like, yeah, he bought this recruit, threw a bunch of money at us. And
it feels like right now there's just an overall vibe in Ann Arbor and at the University of Michigan with what's going on in athletics. And, you see, Harbaugh's here and he has the homecoming. Howard has the homecoming. Howard's kids are coming here. There's just sort of, I don't know, it feels like there is a special family culture, family environment that's really building there. And I think it's across all different types of sports and programs, not just limited to football or basketball. But I do think, I don't know that we'll ever give Juwan Howard the full credit he deserves or know how much he's contributed to just the change in mentality at the University of Michigan in general. Just he oozes that kind of positivity to the point where I think he's had a hand in a lot of what you're seeing play out.
He's a special guy, man. I mean, there's been a lot of accounts of football recruits coming through and, I want to meet Juwan Howard. Let's go see.
Or he's in the big house on Saturday, like high-fiving players in the end zone. You know what I mean? So he's around, man. He's like an ambassador for the University of Michigan. I feel like he has a pretty big impact on everything that's going on right now. Yeah,
there's just he just, you said it, man. He just oozes some of that stuff that you can't create. You can't recreate. It's just you got it or you don't, and he definitely has it. That's why he's recruited so well. That's why he's so fun to cover. I mean, you go to press conferences, the way he interacts with the media people, he remembers who people are. He talks about them personally. He has little side conversations before he gets up on the podium. Just a lot of really cool stuff that makes covering him a lot of fun. And oh, by the way, they're really good too. Like it's a perfect storm, and they're recruiting well, and it just all works. It's fun. I'm looking forward to basketball season. The starting five looks really good. You got a lot of depth. You got some returning guys. You've got Michigan as the favorite to win the Big Ten on a lot of outlets. There's going to be some other really good teams, but man, basketball was a lot of fun last year. Should be even more fun this year. Fans back in the stands, hopefully, and we'll see how that kind of looks. But a big get for Michigan. Jet Howard, very talented. Yeah, it was a layup of a recruitment, but still a big deal because his talent is going to be on the roster. And I think that's worth mentioning. I wanted to put this question up real quick before we move on because it's about the topic at hand. That Jet Howard might be a nice replacement for Caleb Houston, who is presumably a one and done. Frame and game seems similar. I'll be honest. I don't know a ton about Jet Howard's game. I mean, I've watched some of the highlights here and there, and I know that, he's got good length. He's 6'7", pretty athletic, but not like a jump out of the gym guy, and can do a little bit of everything pretty well. I think Houston is much better shooter, more of an offensive player, kind of a finesse player. I would expect a guy like Jet Howard to really lock in and excel on the defensive end of the floor, whereas Houston, you're going to expect to get like 20-25 out of him every night. Jet Howard might be able to do that, but I don't know if that's his calling card necessarily. But that's not a bad thought because I think Houston is the starter at the 3 this year. You don't need a Jet Howard to play right away. Well, he's not going to be there till next year, but I think is he the kind of guy that can play as a true freshman right away after Houston leaves? Yeah, maybe. He's got some skills and he does a lot. He fills up the stat sheet and does do a lot of different things. Whereas I think Houston is he is a scorer. That dude's going to get buckets every single night. And I'm not quite sure Jet Howard is quite that same type of talent when it comes to offense, but a really, really good player all around. Can do it all. All right. I found this interesting, Chris. I haven't talked to you about this at all. So this is something that just came through the wire a little bit ago. This is a Sports Illustrated. I think it's just like a research type of thing. I'm not sure if they're putting together a national article for it or what, but they released some numbers of the top selling Big Ten championship ticket reservations. Okay. They sent the top 5 schools that have reserved the highest percentages of Big Ten championship game tickets. Okay. Do you want to guess or do you want me to just tell you and then you can react to what I say?
I think you should. I mean, I could guess, but I'm just throwing, what do they call it? Shit at the wall, see what sticks. I have no idea. I mean, okay. You can, Michigan, Ohio, you can get a sense of who those groups would be.
Number 5 with 7% of the tickets. Michigan State. Michigan State fans have bought 7%. 7% of the tickets coming in at number 5. Number
This is
4,
great, man. I'm very excited to see how this list plays out.
Number 4 is Wisconsin with 10% of the tickets bought. Still alive.
Hold on. Do you think that was from an earlier period of time?
The email just came through today, so there's a chance this was some of the numbers were certainly probably bought during the preseason. But
I mean, if you're Wisconsin, you could in the preseason you could almost think you could bunch it, right?
I would have thought so. I would have thought so. So Wisconsin comes in at number 4. Penn State comes in at number 3 with 14% of the tickets bought. Iowa comes in at number 2 with 26% of the tickets bought. And Ohio
this is interesting.
Is number 1 with 37. So as of, again, there isn't a date on there, but I would assume this is now. I mean, I don't know why they would send it right now if it was from the preseason. As of that email, per the numbers that they sent from Sports Illustrated, this isn't just some like cockamamie site somewhere that I got the numbers from. Michigan is not in the top 5 right now for Big Ten championship ticket reservations. Ohio State, Iowa, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Michigan State round, and that makes up for like 95% of the tickets. So maybe Michigan was 6th; they only sent the top 5. But that accounts for just about all of the tickets that have been purchased so far. Thoughts on that list and those numbers?
Well, my initial thought was I'm shocked. I'm surprised because it seems like, the alumni base, the fan base, like it just seems like if you're going to pull out a top 5 list of people buying tickets, that the Michigan fan base would be in that group. At the same time, this is the result of not winning a conference championship since 2004.
That's what I thought.
So you're right. We don't know when this occurred, what the date, where these numbers exactly came from, but it does speak to the fact that people want to see it. They've got to see it. And yes, there's some excitement. Yes, everybody's happy about what they've seen, but I think everybody is still aware that the next 6 weeks are really going to be where we find out, the first 6 weeks taught us that they're a good team. And now we're going to find out just how good they are. Mm-hmm. And I'm shocked by that, man. I cannot believe that. Cannot believe it.
What did you think? What did you think I was going to say? Before I said any of them, and then maybe when I said Michigan State was at 5.
Well,
I don't
know. Even when I said it out loud. I was like, obviously Michigan, Ohio State. I figured it would be Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin was a given. Iowa probably, given that they're in the West and they can compete for that. And then maybe Michigan, maybe Penn State. Penn State would be another one I would throw in there. I'm blown away that Michigan didn't crack the top 5. Did it go beyond the 5, or did it stop?
It stopped at 5, and I added up the numbers again: 37% for OSU, 26 for Iowa, 14 for Penn State. Wisconsin had 10, Michigan State had 7. I think it was like 94 or 95% of the ticket sold. And you'd think that. I mean, I don't think any Rutgers fans are buying tickets.
Let me ask you this, Brandon. Let me ask you this:
Michigan had to be 6th.
Are you gonna put down non-refundable? Are you going to put money down for a trip to Indy? Let's just say hypothetically, you're putting money down, $200, $300, non-refundable, putting your money on the Wolverines. Are you? Where's your confidence level right now to do that?
I'm not doing that. I'm not. I mean, I'm just being.
I think that's where most people
look
are.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, this isn't hypothetical.
There wasn't even. You didn't even think about.
No,
it.
but
There
like
was not even like a yeah.
This isn't hypothetical. Like you and I would go cover that game. I'm not booking a room right now. Hell no, I'm not booking that room. I mean, even if it was like fully refundable, I'm still not doing that yet. So no, I get where you're coming from, and I was surprised too. I was like, wait a minute, I had to like double and triple look at it. I'm like, Michigan's not even on the list or in the top 5. I mean, Michigan's on there somewhere, obviously, but yeah, didn't make the top 5. So maybe Michigan again was the 6th school with 6%. That would put them just behind Michigan State, but still just behind Michigan State.
Right?
Yeah, so that surprised me quite a bit. And it was an interesting compilation of statistics. I think we could probably put that together in a story. People would be pretty interested to see that.
Also surprised Indiana wasn't on there. They had a solid year last year. People were pretty high on Indiana going into the season. I think a lot of that's fallen off at this point, but surprised, especially in your home state there.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. OSU, Iowa, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan State rounds out the top 5 of Top selling Big Ten championship ticket reservations. There you have it. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Thought that would be a good thing.
It was. Yeah.
You got a question? What's on your talking list over there, Chris? Again, we're kind of going from the seat of our pants a little bit today.
Well, I mean,
and go blue.
Obviously, we heard from some of the players last night, and I put out the article today about JJ McCarthy. And man, can we just talk about like when you listen to him speak? I know we say this a lot, but I go back to what I was like when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. And I just wasn't, I don't know what it was, but I wasn't anything like that. You know what I mean? I was still trying to like dye my hair and like figure, I just wasn't living life on that level. And he's like giving analogies and he's like very
rapping
together. I was an aspiring rapper at one point.
Yeah.
Brandon Brown also falls into that category for
I
those who
dabbled.
don't know. We both dabbled in the booth a little bit.
Mm-hmm. That sounded hilarious, even just saying those words and then looking at who's speaking right now.
He is a kid that is just mature beyond his years, and what he said during the press conference I thought was great. You can tell like he is a fiery competitor. He wants to be on the football field, and he said he feels like he's ready. Like he's spending time preparing. He's making sure that when his number is called, he's going to be ready. But it seemed to me like I got the impression that if Jim Harbaugh turned to him tomorrow and said, all right, man, you're the guy for the next 6 weeks, he wouldn't even blink. I feel like he is at that level of being prepared where they could pull the trigger on him now. And I don't think you would see any slip off in the second half. In fact, you might see, I think you and I are on the same page that we could see better results there. So I'm just curious, you heard his words, you heard what he had to say. I mean, are at this point, are we just slurping to slurp, or is there really something special there?
I mean, it's one of the qualities that made him so good in high school. He's a natural leader. He works extremely hard. He's a winner. I mean, he's won everywhere he's been. He has a knack for bringing, good people around him. I mean, that's why he was such a good recruiter as a recruit. I mean, there's just some qualities that he has that you're right. They speak to his level of maturity, his approach, his mindset, his mentality as a quarterback. And I think the great quarterbacks are all kind of like the same guy. Like they really are. They have so many of the same type of characteristics between the ears. I mean, you can nitpick and look at different styles and physical abilities. Obviously, they're all really good at those things too. But the brain power and the mental approach and the capacity to understand things and make decisions and all that it's really hard to measure, but you kind of see it. You kind of know it when you see it, I feel like. Now, we haven't quite seen it on the field from JJ because he hasn't done a lot yet, but you kind of get the idea that at some point he's just going to be good. It just feels that way. Now,
it feels inevitable, yeah.
Listen, there's quite a few quarterbacks who have trotted through this program over the last handful of years that everybody knew was going to be the next real deal, and they're all playing at a different school now. So, I mean, like you'd find everybody you asked would say you are freaking crazy if you think JJ McCarthy's not going to be good at Michigan or might end up playing somewhere else. But like rewind 3 years ago and say, you know what, Dylan McCaffrey's going to be playing at Northern Colorado in a couple seasons.
Never would have guessed.
People would have told you were a nutbag, and they would have never listened to you again. Now, I'm not saying JJ's going to do that. But I'm just saying he seems to have every single thing it takes to be really good at the quarterback position. We haven't seen a lot of it yet, but all the stuff you're talking about where he's speaking like he's speaking and he's saying all the right things and he's supporting Cade and he's getting better and he's doing these, player-led workouts with his fellow freshmen and just all that stuff. It all adds up to like, I'm ready to see it. I'm ready to see what it looks like when you inject a football into the formula. And so that's where we're at. That's why everybody's so enamored with what JJ could be, even though Cade's winning games. He's starting, he's playing, he's not making many mistakes, and he's got the team at 6-0. I mean, that's why this discussion is such a discussion, even though it's just like the weirdest. I was going to get to that. It was one of my talking points that I went on the radio with Jamie Morris today, and that was one of the I just blabbed and went on about this Cade and JJ thing because it's such a unique situation in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean it is, and To answer Cody's question, nope, that's the wrong question. But there was a question earlier where, Cody asked, he played for, a college style high school.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
are we really surprised that he talks like that? And Cody, I haven't been doing this job a very long time, but I've been doing it long enough to where I've been around recruits. I've asked questions. I've seen how people interact. It doesn't matter how talented somebody is, what type of high school they play at. There are some guys that just have that and some guys that don't, and it has nothing to do with how talented they are on the football field. You can talk to a 5-star kid who's a complete freak athlete, and he can't stand up in front of a group of people and talk to you the way that JJ McCarthy talked to the media the other night. So yeah, I am surprised by his level of maturity. I think you look around the country and you see with quarterbacks getting benched or not getting playing time, and it's causing waves, and maybe there's some negative energy there. It doesn't affect him. So yeah, he's mature beyond his years. He's overly positive guy. And I think it's something special. I think it's something that you don't see every day. And I don't think just because he went to, a big time high school like IMG that, that really plays a factor in that.
Yeah, Cody, there, another comment to your own question. He does. I mean, he looks like he's been doing it for years and years. He's a pro. There's no question that you play at a place like IMG, you get a little more attention. They coach you up on some things like that because you're going to be in front of a camera. But I'm with Chris. You either have it or you don't. Like some guys, you get to Michigan, you're a big-time player. You're at a big-time program, and they go out there in front of the microphone, and they still sound like they could be in 9th grade.
You've met them. You've interviewed them.
Yeah. The first time they'd ever talked to a girl or something, they're like, they say the same little safety word that they have 55 times in a 4-minute interview. I mean, I'm not going to break them down for it. It's hard. It can be really hard to do.
That's why we talk about how impressive it is. Cause I would have been more on that side of it. Like even for as much as I could have prepared, I just don't think I could have ever addressed other adults that way with that level of maturity at that age. I think that's something special.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Since we're kind of tiptoeing around it right now, this was my third question I was going to ask just to kind of get into something, but I'll ask it now because it is the biggest topic. Not to specifically get into the Cade versus JJ thing again, because we've done that, and I think it's going to continue to be around. Everybody, former players are talking about it, former quarterbacks are talking about it. It's not like it's just you and I saying like, well, what's going on here with this? Like, what's going on with Cade and JJ? Like, it's a really big deal, and a lot of people are talking about it. I just want to ask Chris, can you remember a scenario like this at Michigan or anywhere where you've got a guy who's 6-0 and seemingly doing enough right things to be the starting quarterback, and then a completely unproven youngster that the fan, like a large portion of the fan base is clamoring for? Media people are talking about it. Like I said, former players are analyzing his 5 throws he's made this year and what that could mean for the entire offense. Obviously, the most recent one and the one I think of is with Clemson and Trevor Lawrence. Right. But outside of that, I've never had to talk about a quarterback situation like this before, and I've been covering the team for 8 years now. It's just very, very unique, and I don't really feel like it's out of bounds. Like some people get almost offended, like, why are you talking about it? Like, Cade's the man, and I'm like, well, dude, but if JJ's way better, then why wouldn't you be talking about it? And if you don't think the coaches are having some of these discussions behind closed doors, you're crazy.
Wouldn't that be malpractice if they weren't? I mean, that's their job. You have to. You got to analyze everything.
And, by the way, they're playing him. So they're thinking about it and talking about it, because if they weren't, he would never come in the game. And so,
Jim Harbaugh said he's got every intention of continuing to put him out on the football field.
So I just wonder, this situation, are we out of bounds? Are other people not looking at it enough? Have you seen it before? What else have you heard people say? Just kind of in general, all of it.
Here's the way I look at it. It's okay to have a good problem and to talk about a good problem. Like, there doesn't always have to be a negative connotation. There is a debate over the quarterbacks, but it's a debate over quarterbacks who are leading a 6-0 team. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you do have to look at the first 6 weeks of the season. And like we said the other night when we were on, you have to wonder if that's going to be good enough to get over the big boys that you're going to meet in the second half of the schedule. And I think anybody who looks at that first 6 weeks reasonably, no objectivity, you have to say there's got to be a little bit of concern there. You couple that with the fact that you've seen JJ McCarthy do some pretty impressive things in limited reps that you've been waiting to see Cade go to that level. You've been waiting to see him sort of pull that out of the bag and do that one move or that one play where you're like, damn, that's the dude. Like that's got to be the guy. And we just haven't seen it yet. So I don't think it's unfair. I don't think it's out of bounds. I think it's a fair conversation to have, but Cade is doing well enough for Michigan to be 6-0 and knocking on the doorstep of a top 5 team in the country. So by no means is he failing this team. It just looks like they might have a stronger weapon, and JJ McCarthy is all. And I don't think it's unfair to say that.
You're saying the same thing Dwayne is saying in the comments right here. Cade is solid, like Kelly Bryant was at Clemson. JJ could be special, like he said, sunshine, like Trevor Lawrence was. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was number 1 player in the country. He went number 1 overall in the draft. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to put JJ on that level yet, but we've seen the talent. We've seen the athleticism with his legs. We've seen the live arm. We've seen the willingness to take a shot. That's all stuff we haven't seen from Cade. I'm sorry, you can say that and not be hating on Cade. It's just what you've seen in watching these two guys play football. So
here's another important component of this. And I think somebody said this, one of the fans said this a couple days ago. And my point was, with the way things are going now, not many people are going to care about that. But again, being a fan, we have the luxury of looking at the future. You can't help but wonder, like, to me, I don't see any scenario where JJ McCarthy isn't the starting quarterback in 2022. I just don't see that. I can't envision him spending another year on the sideline with as talented as he is. I just don't see that happening. So if you continue down this path, you're trusting that Cade's going to get you over the hump, and you're costing JJ McCarthy, who will presumably be your guy next year, important reps against teams that he's going to face throughout his entire career. So that's the dilemma. I'm not saying there's an easy choice. There's an easy answer. There isn't. It does seem crazy to rock the boat when you're 6-0, but there's a legitimate case to be made on the other side. That's just the way it is.
Real quick, easy to answer question for Cody right here. Can you guys explain how the small amount of plays affects JJ's eligibility? Can you guys explain how the small amount of plays affects JJ's eligibility? It doesn't. It doesn't matter how many plays, it's games. He can play 4 games as a true freshman and still maintain his redshirt status. If he even steps foot on the field to hold an extra point in a 5th game, he can no longer redshirt. So it doesn't matter how many plays he's on the field for. If he only played I think he's already played in 4 games, if I'm not mistaken. So if he plays again, he will not be able to redshirt this season. And he could play 100 snaps and it would still count the same as 1 snap. So it's just about getting action in a game rather than.
He's going to burn his redshirt this year. We know that, right? Like there's no question about that.
Right. Yeah. So I'd have to look back. I don't think he played against Washington.
He did not play against Washington, I remember being specifically surprised about that because it was a night game. The crowd was incredible. I'm like, man, I'm surprised they didn't throw JJ out there in that environment. But yeah, he never made it out.
And I think he's played in all the other 5. So I think he's already burned the red shirt. He obviously played in the blowout wins, and he obviously played against Nebraska. So yeah, I think he's played in all 5 of the other games now. So at this point, he can't redshirt. He's going to be a true sophomore next year as of last week. So, yeah, the good question, but it doesn't even matter at this point because first of all, the snap count doesn't matter. Second of all, he's already played in 5 games. So,
and just so we're clear, like the whole push for Cade or the whole push for JJ is based on the belief that Michigan isn't going to fall off with JJ, that they will be just as good with Cade McNamara. And that goes back to, like, I haven't seen Cade McNamara have to do anything that I wouldn't trust JJ McCarthy to do. Now, granted, we don't see what they do in the practice, and we don't know, how good of a grip JJ has on the offense at this point. But when you see him on the field on Saturday, it certainly looks like he's fully prepared to go out there and lead the offense. And he said as much yesterday. So I feel confident in him. I think it's, we'll see how the second half of the season plays out. It's going to be brutal. There is still a high probability his number is called this year, and it sounds like he's ready.
Kevin asks or lists, did JJ not play against Rutgers? Maybe he didn't. I thought he played against Rutgers. I thought Washington was the only game we did not see him.
Here, I'll look it up right now.
But either way, even if he didn't, he's at 4 right now. So either they're redshirting him, and he's not going to see the field the rest of the year, or this is all a moot
which
point.
would contradict everything Harbaugh said in the press conference.
Yeah, so Kevin, you may be right. Maybe he didn't play against Rutgers. I can't remember off the top of my head, but if not, he can't play the rest of the year if he wants to be redshirted. So I don't think that will end up mattering. But yeah. Anyway, there you have it with JJ's eligibility. Man, I'm having trouble with that word there. How about this one, Chris? I think you know this person, don't you?
And if they lose a big game, they can and will blame Harbaugh for not making the QB. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
there's a risk.
They will. See, that's the thing. And you know what? Shout out to my mom. My mom is an OG, and I don't know too many moms out there that will sit and watch like all day college football. Like she gets into it. Like even when she doesn't have a dog in the fight, she picks a dog and she fights all afternoon. She gets into the game. So it's fun to watch college football games with her, but she makes a good point. And you know, people talk about the risk of rocking the boat by making a quarterback change. And you know, that could be a stupid move by Harbaugh. Not making the change could also come back to bite him in the ass, because I guarantee you, if they go out and they come up short against Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, any combination of the three, and Cade doesn't have a solid game, whether it's fair or not, it's all you're going to hear is you had this weapon on the sideline. You knew it wasn't going to be good enough to get through the second half of the season, and you didn't do anything about it.
Shout out.
That's right, I do. That's right, I do. Shout out to my mom.
Out to the moms. But that is a great point, because you're right. I mean, in year 7, with what Jim Harbaugh has failed to do, it's thin ice. And as soon, I mean, like the players even know it and have said it. They're like, everybody's just waiting for us to make a mistake. And so far they haven't. So far they've been able to skate through and win a close one against Rutgers, and then win a close one at Nebraska. So like, so far so good. But I think there's a lot of validity that if they lose, and depending on how or why they lose, you know, if it is a very clear picture that Cade just wasn't very good on that night, it is going to be, this whole discussion is going to go up 10 notches about like,
at least.
What are you waiting for? What was Cade?
We could see it
so much better at that you didn't give JJ a chance. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out over the last over the next 6 games, and especially those big 3. And kind of like a baby 4th with Indiana. I mean, don't sleep on Indiana.
Well,
it's at the big house,
Don't sleep on going to College Park. Yeah,
I know.
So every time I want to give Maryland some credit, they come up very, very, very short. But something about them, man.
So Kevin says he did not play against Washington or Rutgers. Right. If you believe
they
Mr.
will burn
Pep Live,
I didn't see. He didn't have any stats against Rutgers, not that I could see.
So there's your 4 games. So obviously, like at this point, he's at the limit. If he plays even one snap the rest of the season, he cannot redshirt.
Can you imagine if JJ didn't play a single snap the rest of the? Well, they would burn the house down.
Like you said, that would completely contradict everything that Jim Harbaugh has said. And I mean, we just got JJ for availability this week. That doesn't look like a guy who's redshirting and is done playing for the season. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I had another really good question. I think I'm bummed out that I don't remember who asked it, because I would give credit to whichever reporter it was on Monday that asked Jim Harbaugh this question. And then I was asked this question today on the radio show with Jamie. This bye right now, is this a good time for the bye week?
Yeah,
I was going to say, I think you can always look at buys in a couple different ways. You need a little time to rest, get healthy, refocus, and it is at the halfway point of the season, which is kind of cool. I mean, like you'd rather do it now for sure than after like week 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But also, with Northwestern at home on the other side of the bye, to kind of get back up to speed and bang off any little bit of rust that you might have developed without playing a game. Not cool, banging off rust? I thought that was fine. No? All right.
Where's
I don't know what you're looking for. No, I do know what you're looking for.
You addicted to sex? A sex addiction?
I just
maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one with the issue. All right, beating off rust. I've never heard anybody. I've never heard anybody.
Didn't say beating off. I said banging off.
Oh, banging off rust. Same thing. Same difference. I never heard anybody say bang off the rust, but
knock off the rust, bang off the. If I had said beating off of the rust, I could get on board with that. I thought banging off the rust was pretty safe, but Apparently,
You addicted to sex? The sex addiction is over?
sorry, Jim.
It's
Chris.
my issue. It's my issue now.
Man.
All right.
Anyway, Northwestern on the other side of the bye, stroke and beat off that rust and just get it done. What? I think
relentlessly pounding.
I think. Good Lord, I think it is a good time for the bye. And I said this on the radio today, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, Chris. This is where my brain went and how I computed it. I think a bad time for a bye is when the team is absolutely humming along, and I don't think Michigan is doing that yet. And maybe they won't. I still think there's several notches that the offense can reach. I think the defense has been pretty good, but last week the linebackers weren't very good a lot of times. They gave up a couple big plays. The tight end just waltzed into the end zone. How they've been handling running quarterbacks, Noah Vidral and Adrian Martinez got loose a little bit. There's some work to do on defense, but overall they've been pretty darn good. Special teams has been really good. So I think when you look at what the team has been doing, I don't think they're like this well-oiled machine that, like, damn it, I can't believe we're not playing a game this weekend. I actually lean towards the bye coming at a really good time, get some guy rest, get some guys some rest, allow some guys to heal up a little bit, and then you do have the luxury of like basically a tune-up game before you go to Michigan State. So I think this is like just about as perfect as you could pick it for a bye week for Michigan right now.
Yeah. You know that emoji is it this emoji? Like the perfect? Like that's it comes wow. This is coming at the perfect time because they exactly. They play that might be a costume coming soon, but they have played just enough football to know that they've got a good football team, but they've also played just enough football to know that they've got some things they've got to work out. The benefit they have is that they're 6-0 and they're a top 10 team in the country. So, man, being able to go in the bye week with 6 wins under your belt, a perfect record, knowing that, hey, we haven't even played our best football yet. We've got some improvements we need to make. And then being able to attack the second half with like all the confidence that comes along with that. I think this bye week comes at the perfect time. And I think we see this team emerge from the bye week even better than what we saw the first half of the season. I have that type of belief in them.
You've got a guy like Roman Wilson who's coming back from whatever exactly he's dealing with the wrist. It's not broken, but it looks like it was pretty serious. I don't think he's going to play against Northwestern either, so that gives him some more time to get ready. Somebody in the comments, who was that? Daniel, good point here. 8 different offensive linemen played against Nebraska. So you've got Zinner, who's a little banged up, and then you move guys around, and so you're plugging and playing different guys. It gives Zinner a chance to heal up a little bit more. It gives some of those other guys a chance to gel better if they do have to come in and play and move around the different positions a little bit. So yeah, I think it's key. I think there's a lot of reasons why this bye comes at a good time. I mean, guys like Aiden Hutchinson and Josh Ross, Dax Hill, Brad Hawkins are playing a lot of snaps. They're on the field a lot. Those 4 guys especially rarely come off the field. So you get some defensive guys a chance to get in the ice bath and get recovered a little bit, rehab, and just get healthy, even though they're not hurt. I mean, you're hurt all the time in football. So a week off, take the pads off a little bit at practice this week and get your body right. I'm with you. I think they're going to be physically in a really good spot when they come back from the bye. And then you can tighten some things up against Northwestern, and then you really buckle it up for the last 5 games of the season with 3 of the really hard ones in Michigan State, Penn State on the road, and then Ohio State obviously at home. So I think it's a really good time for the bye, and that's not always the case. I mean, sometimes when teams are just absolutely clicking, it's like, damn it, I wish we didn't.
And I'm not going to name specific. I can't remember specific instances, but typically when the bye week comes around, like I remember, like shit, like this couldn't have come at a worse time. We're rolling, things are, for me, looking at just kind of the totality of everything and how the season started, and some of the things that we've seen that we're concerned about a little bit. Like I said before, I think it's great being able to go into the break with a perfect record, have the confidence that comes along with it, but also be able to make some improvements. I think they're going to come out strong. They better. I hope.
Yeah. I mean, Nebraska beat Northwestern 56-7. So I mean, I feel like Michigan should be all over Northwestern.
Right.
I feel like
can't come out sleepy.
Feel like we could see JJ quite a bit in that game. That's kind of been how that's went when Michigan gets up. Cade didn't play the entire second half against Northern Illinois, correct?
No,
I think he was done.
I don't believe so. Right? Yeah,
that was the game they played 6 quarterbacks, and I mean every guy who's in that room got a chance to play in that one. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things they can work on. I'm looking at the comments, getting a little distracted because there's quite a bit of good stuff over here. There was one about the quarterback play. Antoine with another good point. He says he thinks Harbaugh teaches fear in the quarterbacks because he emphasizes not turning it over so much. And you hear that, you know how important that is as a former quarterback. Jim Harbaugh certainly knows that. The quarterbacks regress a little bit because they're scared to turn over and make a play and take a gamble and roll the dice a little bit. I'm not going to sit here and say that's off base. I don't know if that's true or not, but sometimes you see a quarterback in their first action of the season with Michigan, they look pretty good. And like the next week, you're like, where'd that guy go? Where is that guy? Like, there's been quite a few instances of that. And, he was billed as this quarterback whisperer, and it has not been anywhere near that. I mean, is that fair? You think, Chris? I mean, obviously it's really hard to like quantify or measure regression because it's like, I don't know, unless you have like an entire season of really good and then the next entire season is really bad. Like when a guy plays like a drive or a series or two quarters of good play and then isn't so good after that, I don't really know if that's regression. I don't know. I mean, what do you think? This point I think is an interesting one, and you could probably come up with some examples based on the names that have been under center at Michigan.
Yeah, I would just say the track record speaks for itself. Like that's the evidence, that's the proof. And that has been like the one big hang up during the Harbaugh era. The biggest, like the puzzling question is, why can't this guy get his quarterback? Why can't he develop a quarterback? Like you would think, you look at a program like the University of Michigan, you would think, like when you look around the country and you look at some of these other quarterbacks, like they should be bringing in big time, top tier talent at that position. And for some odd reason, Harbaugh has just missed on it often. And I know that Shea Patterson came in and gave us some good years. I know that, he's gotten some good play out of the quarterback, but the bottom line is it just hasn't been good enough. And I think the reason why people gravitate to JJ so much is because it seems like his wiring is different. It doesn't seem like he has the type of mental makeup where if he goes out and makes a mistake, he's going to fold and he's going to be a completely different quarterback the next week. I feel like he's the kind of guy, if he goes out and he throws that ball across the field against Western Michigan and that ball's a pick, I think he comes back and he'll make the same throw the very next week. I don't think he's going to get gun shy. So I think that's the difference. And I think that's why people are so excited to see him, because you genuinely sense something different in the mental makeup. And I think that goes a long way in terms of the way your offense performs, the way people respond to you, the way guys make plays when they go up to snag the ball. it has an impact on everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the quarterback thing, that's, I think if you took anybody in the media or any, really, really locked in Michigan fan, that would be the one thing that's so puzzling about Jim Harbaugh's tenure is how he just hasn't found that stud or that guy at quarterback. I mean, there's been
who would you say is the top? Would you give it to Rudock?
It's either Rudock or Patterson, but it's not like there's not a gimme answer, and neither of those guys were like world beaters. I mean, they were pretty good at times.
And then think about how far of a distant second any of his recruits have been. Not even close.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about it. Michael Miller with a couple good questions about the receivers. Where are the rub routes, the pick routes, getting guys open, scheming them open? Where's the underneath high percentage stuff to Henning and Wilson?
That's the stuff we've been asking more of. Yeah.
That's what we've been asking since Josh Gaddis was hired and started bumping his gums about speed and space. And it just hasn't happened. I mean, just flat out is not even a thing anymore. They don't say it anymore. They don't talk about it anymore. It's not something that they look like they even want to try to do on offense. It's like,
Brandon, you know why it got shuffled to the secret playbook. You don't talk about what's in the secret book to people like us. You keep it in the back room and you never use it ever.
Yeah, I mean, you've recruited guys who are supposed to excel in that kind of thing. I mean, Giles Jackson was that way. It wasn't working out. He wasn't getting the ball. He wasn't being used, and he leaves. And now Mike Sainristil and Roman Wilson and A.J. Henning and all those guys are 6 feet or less, 180 pounds or less, and fast and quick. They're not really meant to like go up and fight for deep jump balls and deep fade routes with corners hanging on their hips. Like, get them the ball, let them create, let them make a short catch into a long gain, and it just
that's 10 or 15 yards all day long to me. You let those guys, you do the rub routes, you get them on the slants, you're picking up yards. And maybe that's something we'll see pick up in the second half of the season because they're definitely going to need it. We know they're going to need that production out of those guys. They're going to need big time production out of AJ Henning, Roman Wilson, Mike Sainristil still, it's good to see, like that catch he made. I was really happy to see that because he's a guy in the preseason that I thought was really ready to take that next step into like a leadership role on the football field. And it's not like he hasn't because none of the wide receivers have been overly impressive to this point, but I think he's, it was nice to see him make that big catch because I know he's got that in him and you just want to see him get the ball more.
Let's throw this up here real quick. Nice last name here from this guy, D Brown. The wide receivers have been wide open all year. What are we talking about? Cade's not hitting them. I think there's been a little of that. I don't think it's been like he's really documented, like very egregious, obvious problem. I mean, I said it before. I think he's had more average to below average throws than high accurate above average throws. I mean, I'm sure it's charted somewhere, and I don't think anybody's going to come up and get in my face for saying that, right? I mean, do you think Cade's had more average to below average throws than average to above average or elite great throws? I think he has. I think
here's the thing. I would give him the benefit of the doubt by putting it at like 50-50. Like I struggle to go one way or the other. And even that, I think, says something. Like you've seen, like if you sit back and watch the games, you've seen like when he drops back and he lofts the ball up into the air, it's a beautiful spiral. It looks great, but there's not a lot of accuracy that's required there. You just kind of get the ball in a general area and let your wide receiver go to work. But when Cade's really had to drop back and kind of use his arm and had to test his accuracy, it hasn't been like I haven't gotten the wow factor from it, Brandon, like I have from JJ McCarthy. So I don't think it's crazy. He's clearly missed on some throws. He's left some points on the field, and that's one of the reasons why people continue to look towards JJ as a possible answer for a problem that could come up in the second half of the season.
I want to address a question that came up earlier, and I was looking for it, and I can't. There's a lot of comments over here, so I apologize for not giving you your shine. I'm looking, and I don't see it. But the question was, Chris, what year is that WrestleMania shirt from, and what's it all about? Talk about your trip real quick.
My guy, the ultimate. Wait, hold on. The Ultimate Warrior. Okay, I mean, yeah, I don't even know what I have to say. Like, if you know about the Ultimate Warrior, you know about the Ultimate Warrior. He's cut from a different cloth. He bleeds a different kind of blood. He used to. Rest in peace, Warrior.
I really want to.
I have to say something here. As a side note, I took my son down at LCA. We went to go see, WWE came to town. So I took him down. I think I sent you some pictures of us while we were down there. That wrestling crowd, that is an interesting crowd. Like, you've got different kinds of crowds that go to like football games, basketball games, but then you've got like the monster truck crowds and the WWE crowds. And there's some, I was as amused at watching the ring as I was at just people walking around LCA. It was fantastic.
It's an interesting breed of folk. I'll say that. And you were part of that, Chris. Congratulations. I wanted to throw this up there again. Like, Pro Football Focus isn't my Bible, but when everybody's graded the same way on the same scale, like they're
high on Aiden.
Yeah, there's validity to it. You can't love what they're saying about Aiden Hutchinson and Daxton Hill and then be like, they don't know shit when they're talking about Cade. Like,
exactly.
And like I said, everybody's graded on the same scale. And if you make a mistake for this guy, it's likely that same mistake is going to be made on another guy. So at the end of the day, whatever score you get is relative to everybody else. And I think there's value in that. I know a lot of the football coaches who are they're the smartest guys that have ever put a whistle in their mouth, which missed me with that. They kind of bag on Pro Football Focus a little bit because, like, they don't know what we want them to do. It's like, bro, it's football. Your big tackle ran at that DB and tripped and fell and didn't block him. He was supposed to, but he didn't. That's a negative on the grading sheet. Like, it's not that hard to figure out. Cade was awful against Nebraska. That 44.3 is like you shouldn't even own a helmet. Like, that's how bad that is. So again, not trying to pile on or say that like it's only whatever happened in that game, and shoot, man, they won. But
here's what it boils down to.
Stuff on the field. There's no doubt.
It's fair to say, and I think you were the one who made this point when we were talking, that it's at least a fair question to ask: is Michigan winning because of Cade McNamara or in spite of him? It's not like he's having no impact on the field whatsoever. If I had to choose one of those sides, I would say more in spite, only because like there hasn't been a big boost of big time plays from him to where I've felt myself saying like, you got to have Cade McNamara on the field. Like I'm ready and willing to fall in love with the kid as like the guy who's going to lead us to the promised land. Like I want to be the full slap. I want to be rocking the jersey. I want to go all the way, but
Full slap.
I just, like I'm just not getting it. And and I think there's a lot of people in the same boat who look at his game and say, it's good. It's
Wasn't I supposed to have a slap? I was supposed to have a slap sound effect. Damn it. Anyway,
you got the slurp.
D Brown. I think you just put this perfectly, and I'm going to put it up because you said it and I didn't, so that way people can't get mad at me. But I think I think you can say this and both can be true, and it doesn't mean you're like shitting on a guy. It sucks because Cade is winning, but God bless him, he may be holding Michigan back.
Yes, very true.
I don't think you can put it any better than that. I'm not saying he's awful.
Devil's advocate, he might not be holding them back. He might not be. It's a gamble. We're not saying
you put in the freshman, and maybe you don't win that game in Nebraska because he throws 3 picks or something. I don't know. That's the thing. That's the long and short of it, as they say. I don't know what else to. I don't know
that's the rest of the story.
I don't know how else to really put it into words, but I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I see Dwayne right here too. Yeah, play calling's never been something I've been in love with since Mr. Gaddis has got to town. But if you've got an absolute, stud at quarterback, they can make a lot of play calls look pretty good. And so it's kind of a two-way street there as well.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it just feels like you could talk about that one topic all day because it's so unique. I can't remember, certainly not at Michigan. And the only other place that even comes to mind is Clemson a handful of years ago when they benched Kelly Bryant for Trevor Lawrence. And I think somebody pointed out maybe that Bryant might have got a little dinged up, so their hand was kind of forced a little bit. I don't remember it going that way, but if it did, whatever.
I remember it sticking out specifically.
Lawrence didn't start at the beginning of the year. That's kind of the point, and he was the number one recruit in the planet, so that was a big deal. Obviously, Clemson was really freaking good. They were already making playoffs and winning titles at that point, but it's comparable. It is comparable. So,
but it feels like it. I'll just add this: it feels like the supporting cast for a JJ McCarthy is good enough right now on this football team to where I don't feel like it would be throwing him to the wolves. Like in years past, it would be like, you can't throw a young guy out there with that offensive line. He's going to get killed. This team looks like they're good enough to do something. And JJ McCarthy looks like he's good enough to get them to where they want to be. So, it's a fair discussion.
I think it is. I think it is fair. And I don't think it's piling on. I don't think it's, taking something away from Cade that you shouldn't be taking away.
And if Cade's the guy you hope he is, things like this motivate him. If he hears this kind of talk, if he pays attention to it, I don't know if he does, but if he does, and if he's the kind of guy that everybody hopes he is, like stuff like this typically motivates guys like that. So, I mean, look at the way Tom Brady operates. Tom Brady holds grudges. He'll never let go. Same with all the great ones, the Jordans, the Bradys, all the great ones, like they feed off of that stuff. And so if there is a legitimate question about whether or not it's JJ or Cade, if Cade is the guy, like he should embrace it and raise his level of play and walk up to a post-game press conference and just let everybody know.
It's kind of crazy. So Kelly Bryant was Clemson's starting quarterback in 2017. Did they win a title that year? They didn't win a title with him, but I believe they made the playoff. I'd have to look back on that.
His freshman year?
So that's what I was going to say. The comparisons here, the similarities are kind of crazy. He was a junior. He was a third-year player as a starter. He played 14 games. He threw only for 2,800 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. So his numbers weren't like amazing. He was a much bigger threat running the ball. He had almost 700 yards rushing and 11 rushing touchdowns. So he was a much more of a dual threat than Cade. But then it was 4 games into the following season that they yanked Kelly Bryant out, insert Trevor Lawrence. Kelly Bryant goes to Missouri. Does all right there too as well. But it's interesting. I mean, Michigan's obviously 6 games in. They're 6-0. I don't know if anybody's talking about Michigan being good enough to make the playoff or make some noise in the playoff or win the Big Ten yet. It's getting close to that. We kind of started the discussion off of with those ticket purchases, Michigan not up there. So, yeah, maybe people are waiting to see a little bit. But Dabo made the decision. This freshman's too freaking good. He's playing. That's it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
And the rest was history. Again, not sure Cade's on that. I'm not sure JJ's on a Trevor Lawrence level, but
and I think
there's some similarities.
Cody asked a question. What's the concern you have about changing to JJ? And there's, it's not like the people who are supporting that change are like, this is for sure going to work. There is certainly a chance that it doesn't work. And one of the big concerns you have is that if you go to JJ the second half of the season and it doesn't really, he's not feeling it, it's not really working out, and they've got to go back to Cade. Now you've rocked the boat and you've screwed with the mentality of two quarterbacks when everything was sort of working well as is. And then everybody's going to pile on and say, why the hell did you do that? Like, it was finally working and you couldn't just leave well enough alone. So it's risky no matter what Jim Harbaugh does. I have a feeling at the end of the year, if this thing doesn't play out with Michigan and Indianapolis, one way or another, there's going to be talk about, did he do enough? Did he didn't do enough? And this is going to be the hottest topic for sure.
Did he didn't do enough? That's another one of those things.
Did I say did he didn't do enough?
You absolutely did.
I'll watch it up. Ask the people.
So yes, if not, why? Did he didn't do enough?
Answer that one, good sir.
Did he didn't do enough? Okay. Another good point from Dwayne here. Kelly Bryant couldn't pass. Dabo knew he needed Lawrence to win the title. Can Cade pass? I mean, how that's a very broad, he can't throw the ball. Obviously he can throw the ball. He was winning games and he put up some stats. Can Cade throw the ball? Can Cade McNamara throw the ball? How would you answer
as good as JJ McCarthy?
Someone's drinking beers and you're at the bar. Can Cade McNamara throw the ball even? What do you say?
Yes, but not as good as JJ McCarthy.
Well, there you go. That's Chris Bryler, everybody. His address is 165. I don't know his address.
Is that a controversial statement? I think everybody would agree that JJ's got a better arm, right? I don't I would think that maybe not in front of the cameras, but behind the doors, the closed doors there at Schembechler, they know that JJ's got the better arm. I just don't think that's a question. But there's a whole other part of the package that, at least initially, it seems like Cade is superior in. So.
Just a couple of blowhards talking for an hour. Talking for an hour, dude. I mean, we didn't really have our normal structure. We didn't have some of our segments tonight because of the bye week, and here we are over an hour in.
Once again.
And just crushing the game, if you ask me.
The ripping and the tearing.
And the banging off and all the...
ever since we got that drop, it's just made its way into the show. There might be something to that.
Just beating off the rust. Yeah. But we'll be back on Friday. We got back onto our regularly scheduled program. We went Tuesday, Wednesday, and we're gonna go Friday. And then nothing on the weekends for a podcast anyway, for live stream, because no game. But we'll have content all weekend long. We'll get back after it on Monday with a normal schedule and looking at Northwestern and Michigan marching towards 7-0 with an absolute slobber knocker coming in East Lansing. Real quick, actually, this was asked earlier. Michigan State versus Indiana this weekend. What do you think? We'll talk a little bit more about that on Friday, but first glance.
Is it Bloomington?
Yeah, I think it's in Indiana.
I keep waiting for Michigan State to show us that they're still really Michigan State and trip up and show that they're not that good, and then they keep going out and putting up monster performances with Walker and Naylor. So I like Michigan State, man. I think both teams hit the field in East Lansing undefeated. I don't know if I don't know what the AP looks like, but I'm telling you, man, this is going to be absolute war. Absolute war.
It's going to be pretty fun. It's going to be pretty fun, man. I mean, God, I hope they beat Indiana this weekend. I mean, I want them to be undefeated. I don't want them to be. because they have a bye after that. So they're coming straight off the bye to the Michigan game. Michigan gets its bye this week and then a tune-up against Northwestern. So pretty good spots for both of them to take a bye week and get ready for that big one on the 30th. So it would just be incredible if they were both undefeated. So we'll see how that plays out. We'll talk a little bit more about that on Friday. We'll still look at a bunch of games and get into some of the specifics, the bets, the spreads, predictions. We can tweak it a little bit. It might not be so Michigan heavy without an opponent in some of those segments, but we'll get into it. So thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate the participation. The comments, man, are flying in. We love that.
You guys are killing it.
Especially on a night like tonight where we didn't have our normal structure. It really kind of carried the show. So appreciate that from you guys. We'll be back